this, we would like to enhance awareness of the socio-ecological production landscapes and seascapes, or the Satoyama concept. The concept is anchored on the principle, or we call it the philosophy, of living in harmony with nature. Satoyama initiative has been approved by the Conference of the Parties of the Convention on Biological Diversity in 2010 as a strategic approach in biodiversity conservation, also ecosystem landscape conservation.
The Philippine sepals are threatened due to population pressure brought by rapid migration of families suffering from poverty in the lowlands and land use policy. And we can see all these problems lead to the degradation of our sepals. These cultural landscapes continue to fight over the impacts of poverty, population pressure, and proliferation of modern agricultural practices, which have exacerbated the erosion of indigenous knowledge system. The sepals sustainability is one strategy to conserve our rich biodiversity.
In the Philippines, we have seen how degraded our natural resources are. So there's really a lack of the traditional knowledge as well as the deep appreciation when it comes to their landscape. And we have seen out-migration. Once they're able to find more stable jobs, the Ifugaos, both youth and the working population, would really migrate outside of Ifugao, leaving the Ifugao rice terraces abandoned. So it's really important that given the wide variation in the socio-ecological makeup of sepals globally and locally, as well as in their political and economic context, individual communities will be at the forefront of developing appropriate measures for their unique circumstances.
So yung challenge ko sa inyo for this one is to change the way we grow food and ask ourselves, are my actions beneficial to the landscape? Permaculture is one way. It's a design philosophy, a design framework na you can use to grow food in a way na not just for growing food or for food security, but also you have in mind yung health ng inyong landscape, ng ecosystem, and of species na nakatira doon.
Without any external inputs, we can do agriculture permanently because one of the aspects of ecosystem services could be harnessed when all of this place is intact. So we just basically harnessing what's in the environment could provide us. So now people would initially thought about the sepals and then the permaculture design. What are these two concepts all about, or practices or movements? Are they opposing forces? And it's very clear that our speaker really told us that the sepals is based on the landscape or seascape ecosystem reliance, where the permaculture is about ecological design system. So instead of viewing them as opposing forces, so to speak, quote and quote, we could rather create a harmony, so that the interactive components, the synergy and interconnectivity of those two components, the sepals and permaculture, because they are operating the same platform. We have the different landscapes and seascapes, but consciously designing to augment both two aspects desired for sustainability of our ecosystem, that we could harness a much better ecosystem services without jeopardizing our environment.
So we have to start earlier in restoring our ecosystem, and I have to say, it's not an easy task. Practically, we are challenged by awareness, we are challenged by lack of resources, we are challenged by climate change, we are challenged by economic system, we are challenged by government policy imposition, all sort of things. So don't ask me when is. I think it is a time to take action. After this seminar, start to think about collecting seeds. Reconnect with your rural friends. Ask for some local seeds. How do you do that planting? Engaging your kids. Take action.
We can also maybe level up this idea of ecosystem to not just a plainly homogeneous area in our environment, but rather looking at distinct patches, or maybe like in the context of a Satoyama is a collection of different land uses or patches. So maybe an environmental unit that we could restore or that we could accelerate its recovery is at that level where we could see different patches of lands.
The civil society organization play a vital role in promoting sustainable socio-ecological production landscape and seascape utilization and management by connecting various stakeholders to support local communities, and also by producing policy recommendation through on-the-ground experience and disseminating information and story of self-sustainable management to public. One of the very interesting secret or tip to work with government organization is polite but persistent. This is the term that they use. You cannot stop or cannot give up to make the governmental side understand your objective. And then if they cannot accept the way that you work, so start to talk to them and make them learn and adjust the way of working together, because finally both sides has the same goal to conserve natural forests or natural resources, but the mean or the way of working may be different. So just try to find the same the point that everyone can collaborate.
And hopefully this will spread out not only in Thailand but also in areas where such undertaking is applicable. Hopefully the involvement of civil society groups and other organizations towards restoring seascapes and landscapes will continue, and more groups or individuals will join. We need to restore and sustain our sociological production landscape and seascapes for the benefit of the humanity and the environment.
Alright, good morning everyone. Good morning po sa ating lahat. And welcome po to our 9th episode of the Revitalizing Socio-Ecological Production Landscapes and Seascapes Webinar Series. I hope clear naman po yung aking audio. Can I see a thumbs up reaction po sa ating participants? Ayan, okay. So clear naman po yung aking audio. Okay, so again, good morning and welcome. So this is an online event organized by the Project 1 of the Emerging Interdisciplinary Research Building Climate Smart Communities program. And my name is Anne and I will be your host for today. So this webinar aims to raise awareness on this conservation and sustainable use of socio-ecological production landscapes and seascapes or SEPLS through a series of online talks on Satoyama-Satoumi principles and associated practices as approaches to sustainable management and biodiversity conservation. So feel free to comment on our comment section on our Zoom chat where you are from, what institution or organization you are representing. And yes, so I hope na some of us are end-timer na po na attendee ng ating webinar series. So you have seen as well Doc Art in our previous webinars. He was our previous discussant in one of our previous topics. So before we begin, let me just remind everyone that today's topic is entitled Diversity of Flora and Fauna in Naungan Seascape and Lake Danao Forest Landscape. And this will be followed by a discussion in an open forum. So please note that the webinar is recorded and this will be made available in our website and YouTube channel. Okay, so sige, let me just acknowledge some of our participants in the meeting chat. So we have Sir Jerome Adriano, good morning po, and Ma'am Deborah May Flores, good morning po. And yes, si Sir Rex Rulog from Jose Rizal Memorial State University, Katipunan Campus. So welcome po from Jose Rizal Memorial State U. And we also have, yes, si Ma'am Deborah from University of Southeastern Philippines. And Ma'am Sir Lean Joseph Abregana from USEP Tagum. Ayan, so we are seeing more representatives po also from MSU, si Ma'am Jean, and yes, Jansen Diamante from SLSU Lukban. Okay, so again, so before we start, we are reminding everyone for our proper decorum of our webinar. So kindly keep your microphones muted when our speaker is discussing and our discussant is presenting their presentation. So if you have any questions or clarifications while the talk is ongoing, you may send your questions via Zoom chat or Facebook Live comment, and we will acknowledge them later on during the open forum. Also, the link to the evaluation form will be provided after the open forum, and e-certificates will be provided to all participants indicated in the form. So given that you have submitted the post-evaluation forms. So, okay, so to formally start our webinar today on behalf of the Emerging Interdisciplinary Research Building Climate Smart Communities Program, the Project One, and the Philippine Satoyama team, I would like to thank you all for your interest in joining our webinar series. And again, socio-ecological production landscapes and seascapes originally came from the Japanese word Satoyama and Satoumi, which is anchored from the principle of living in harmony with nature. And this is used as an approach for biodiversity and ecosystem landscape and seascape conservation. So I hope that we will all have an inspiring, engaging webinar topic today. I know you're all also excited to know about the diversity of Naungan and Lake Danao landscape. So let me just introduce to you our speaker. Our speaker is a professor at the Department of Forest Science at Visayas State University. He obtained his Bachelor of Science in Forestry in 1992 at the Visayas State University and took his master's and doctoral degree in Forest Resources Management at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and graduated in 1998 and 2007, respectively. So for about 27 years, he has gained solid experiences in research, instruction, forest technology promotion, project development, management, and training. He has attended international conferences, including in the US, in Denmark, in Netherlands, South Africa, Australia, among others, which tackles, of course, watershed communities, climate change, community forestry, and forestry policy development, biodiversity conservation, agroforestry systems, and landscape restoration. So ladies and gentlemen, why don't you join me in welcoming and giving warm virtual clap and applause to Professor Arturo Pasa. So Doc Art, the floor is yours po.
Thank you, Anne. So let me share my PowerPoint, no? Okay. Anne, okay na ba yon?
Yes, Doc Art, clear na po. Okay na po.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Allow me to share with you our initial findings of our study on diversity of flora and fauna in Danao Forest Landscape and Naungan Seascape in Ormoc City. Now, this study is part of a program on blending of multimedia approach at Satoyama-Satoumi principles for building climate smart communities. Just like what was mentioned by Anne earlier. No? And the program actually sets out to collect and analyze information on the biological, environmental, and cultural components of the targeted upland and coastal communities using Satoyama and Satoumi principles. So this is the reason why we collected information about flora and fauna in relation to biological and environmental components. And the information that will be used, that we gathered will be used to surface out connections and relationships essential to the promotion of Satoyama-Satoumi conservation initiatives. And before going further, allow me to inform everyone that the program mentioned by Anne has 4 major projects. And project 1 is on assessment of the biophysical environment and selected communities vulnerable to climate change. So this presentation is part of the project 1. Now, there is project 2 on assessment of disaster preparedness of households and communities vulnerable to climate change. And of course, there will be other presentations related to the findings also from this project. Then we have also project 3, assessing resilience and establishing community well-being index. Also another project with very critical findings. And project 4, empowering households, communities, and LGUs through capacity development using multimedia materials and open line courses. So as you know, UP Open University provide open line courses. No? So the information that they will gather here, including our flora and fauna diversity results, will become part of the multimedia materials that they will prepare. So in essence, they are looking for on-ground information, real and useful for the online courses. Okay, so let's go back to the objective of the study. The main objective is to determine the structure and dynamics of the various vegetation patches in the Danao landscape and Naungan Seascape using standard vegetation assessment methods. We are happy that Dr. Jun Buot is part of this project, and he guided us on the vegetation assessment methods. And second is to identify and assess status of ecologically and culturally important animal species on the same landscapes using standard assessment methods. So we have also in our group someone who is expert on animal diversity. Now, there are actually 3 major sites of the program. Very vulnerable to climate change and other disasters. No, Mayon volcano is located in the area. They are near the Pacific Ocean, so they have typhoons. No, most of the time of the year. And the second area is the area where I will be providing information. This is the Lake Danao Natural Park and the Barangay Naungan in Ormoc City. The Lake Danao is already a natural park. No? So we are thankful of the visible presence of DNR in the area. And of course, the Naungan Seascape, no, in the lower portion. Now, of course, the third site is in Barangay Masaw and Barangay Tungaw in Butuan City. I believe Dr. Jess Humawas already presented initial findings from the study sites. Okay, now this is the Danao landscape. No, you can see a beautiful lake. Maybe some of you who have not visited the area, hopefully can visit during your vacation period. And these are the different ecosystems or landscape situation in the area. You can see a lake with different kinds of vegetation surrounding, and there are some shrublands, there are large trees, there are swamp areas, and agricultural areas. And for Naungan Seascape, you can see a number of houses located near the shore. Of course, mangrove species that were planted by the people's organization in the area. They have flourished, and if you're interested, you can also visit this area. There is a people's organization that is managing and maintaining this area to be able to withstand the different climate change and other related concerns. No? Okay. Regarding the Danao transit line, no, we are supposed to make a straight line, but because of the cliff and the real ground situation, we are not able to do it. Supposedly, it should be 2 kilometers, as mentioned by our study leader, which is the standard assessment transit line. So we were able to only establish about 840 meters. Now, for Naungan transit line, you can see that there are line gaps, no? This is because of the presence of river systems. So we have to stop at some point near the river bank and then transfer to another river bank. And we were only able to establish about 1.1 kilometers for the transect in Barangay Naungan. You can see huge areas that were converted to pispans. Some are agricultural lands and some are residential areas. So these are the challenges facing the Naungan seascape. Okay, so now what we did is that we established 42 10 by 10 meter plots, and then they were established in forest lands in Barangay Danao, of course, in agroforestry and agricultural lands. For Barangay Naungan, we established 55 10 by 10 meter plots and 3 transit lines. As I've shown you, no, there were 3 lines established because of the rivers. It was not contiguous line, no, because of the presence of the river system. Now, for fauna, as I mentioned a while ago, it should be 2 kilometers, but because of the situation of the ground, we were only able to establish 840-meter transit line in Danao and 1.1 kilometer transit line in Barangay Naungan. And we observe different animals like arthropods, herpetofauna, birds, mammals, and of course collected GPS points per station and GPS track along the transit line. And then we encoded our data for submission and verification. I'm just showing you also in this table soil sampling activities and ethnobiological survey, but that will be another presentation. Now you might be surprised why I included in the table, because I'll be presenting partly some findings from the locals which we included in the presentation. Okay, so our findings showed that there were 55 species of flora in Barangay Danao, especially on the upper canopy, belonging to 34 families and 251 individuals. And for the understory, there were 63 species belonging to 207 individuals. For the Barangay Naungan, there were 10 species of flora that were recorded for the upper canopy and belonging to 7 families and 331 individuals. And understory with 23 species and 137 individuals. For the avifauna, we have 9 species belonging to 8 families and 21 individuals for Barangay Danao. Non-volant mammal, 1 species under 1 family with 8 individuals. Arthropods, 200 individuals. These are for scientific name identification and verification, and 1 herpetofauna that we found in the area. For Naungan, we have 17 species of avifauna belonging to 13 families and 62 individuals. For small non-volant, we only found 1 under 1 family and 1 individual. Arthropods, 54 individuals, and we are still waiting for the identification and verification because insects are quite difficult to identify. No? And herpetofauna, 6 species, 6 families, and 57 individuals. So these are the key findings that we are going to show you. So just to give you an idea of how we collected our data, in Barangay Danao, we have observed Swietenia macrophylla, which are part of the reforestation initiatives of DNR. More so that Lake Danao has been established as a natural park. So DNR is noticeable, no, in the area, and we are glad that their presence enable the community to be also vigilant, no, about the illegal activities in the area. Now, there are also local species, native species in the area like Ficus minahasi or hagimit, and then alim, malabagang, balanti, malaputat, and other species. No? Now, in the Seascape area, these are the very common species we have observed, like Abyssinia marina and Abyssinia officialis, Soniratia alba. No? So these are the species that are commonly found in the area. We have not observed endangered species like Campus Timon philippinensis or nearly threatened Agisiras floridum. No? We are suspecting that those species are already extinct in the area due to the establishments of fish ponds and other construction. But for Lake Danao, we have observed a number of threatened species along the forest landscape. No? And this include Alangium longiflorum, Delinia philippinensis, which is a critically endangered species. No? And this information is telling us that we have to be vigilant, we have to be careful, and we have to continue our initiative to conserve these species before they become extinct. Now, you know that Hupia malibato and Hupia philippinensis are important dipterocarp species. No? And in the past, there were logging operations in the area, which is the reason why they become critically endangered. And with the presence of Pambi, this species now is being protected, and they are continuing to conserve the species. Hopefully, there will be more Hopia Malibato and Hopia philippinensis in the area through the years, no? Through the coming years. Now, in terms of the herpetopana, we just want to show you how we collected the data, the template that we use, no, provided by the project. Maybe some of you will also be interested to collect in the future. So we show this one for your reference. So we collected transact information, specifically GPS data and other related information. Now, these are the avifaunal species that we found in the area. We cannot show you everything because the list is quite long, and you know the time is very limited. We just want to show you that the Danao area is still blessed with various species of birds like emerald dove, white-eared brown dove, olive-black sunbird, Philippine bulbul, yellow-vented bulbul, and other species. No? In the Seascape area, we also saw important species of birds like Philippine bulbul, yellow-vented bulbul, great egret, cinnamon bittern, and other bird species. No? Of course, there are also other species that are present in the area. Now I'd like to show this one. We have not actually observed this animal species in Lake Danao area. But the locals mentioned that they have observed tarsier, flying lemur, Philippine tree squirrel, Philippine deer, and Philippine warty pig. No? But our time of survey and observation is quite limited, and could be the reason why we're not able to see this one. But I personally have seen tarsier, flying lemur, tree squirrel, and warty pig at the back of the Visayas State University. You know, the Visayas State University has a vast forest area, which is 50 kilometers away from Lake Danao. No? And you know that these animals are mobile, and we are sure that they are moving from one place to another. No? Why I'm showing this? Because tarsier is near threatened, and Philippine deer is vulnerable, and warty pig is also vulnerable. We cannot wait but to continue to conserve them so that there will be more faunal species in the future in this part of the country. Now, allow me to show you some photos. We have observed some snails, kind of grasshopper, and a skink, no, that we saw in the sample pail that we established in the area. And of course, you can find a lot of crabs along the seascape, including mudskippers, some snail, and a bird. No, at the center, you can see a bird that we have observed along the seascape area. So with that, we can say that there are still a lot of flora and fauna in the area, including those that are critically endangered, vulnerable, or threatened, and this signals us, no, to continue our conservation effort so that this species will continue to exist and will continue to help in the ecosystem's functioning for the present and future generation. So with that, I would like to thank you everyone for your kind attention and time.
Thank you very much, Doc Art, for presenting the flora and fauna diversity of our Satoyama site. and Satoyama-Satoumi site in Ormoc. And of course, for providing us an update on the status of the species found in our SEPLS areas, and for presenting the current issues and challenges observed concerning the biodiversity in Naungan Seascape and Lake Danao forest landscape. So to all our participants, if you have any questions to our speaker, please leave them in our Zoom chat. And for our viewers on Facebook Live, kindly send your questions via comment section, and we will take note of your questions and ask them during the open forum after the discussion. Also, the link to the evaluation form will be shared on the comment section and chat box after the open forum. So now let's proceed to the discussion. Let me just introduce to you our discussant for today. So our discussant is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Biology at the University of the Philippines, Cebu in 1994, and he obtained his master's and doctoral degree in Environmental Science in UP Los Baños in 1999 and 2005, respectively. He has spearheaded many projects on natural disaster preparedness, landscape change, and many more. Among his research interests include environmental analysis, monitoring, environmental protection and sustainability, and more. So he is currently the professor and the dean of the Faculty of Education at the University of the Philippines Open University. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a warm virtual applause to the program leader of the Emerging Interdisciplinary Building Climate Smart Communities Program, Dr. Ricardo T. Bagarina. Good morning po, Doc Baggy.
Good
Welcome
morning.
po.
Good morning. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually having a meeting right now. So, but I just make myself available not for this for this presentation. And I think this is a very great privilege for me to discuss something about the study what we did in Lake Danao and in Naungan, Ormoc City, one of our project sites for this research program. We know that diversity studies are actually very important to us. For one, they are needed so that we would know what we have in our environment, and knowing our environment actually is a key towards a better living condition as well as a better response to any disasters. And this is what we would like to achieve in this research program that we have. Dr. Art's presentation, especially in the results of their floral and faunal survey of the two ecosystems in that project site, that of the Lake Danao and of the Naungan marine ecosystem, I suppose, is an important knowledge actually that we need to have and to share not only with our own community, I mean within the scientific community, but even to the communities in these areas. Okay, and I believe that providing these communities with a report of these studies, specifically in a very more simplified manner, will be an imperative after this study. And I think this is what we intend to do with this study. Why should I say that? It is not only because it is the most ethical thing, I suppose, to do for this project team management and even the project study, but also because those are information that I suppose very important for the community to know, and information that these communities need to have so that they can use these resources more efficiently, especially consuming these resources with a mindset of making sure that their next generations can still enjoy the presence of these plant and animal species and in the locality. Then, although if we try to look at yung presentations, we have those scientific names, for instance, and maybe the scientific names, maybe exotic information to these communities. But I think the most important thing is we would be able to provide yung common names to these different plant and animal species. And maybe this information would be very important to the community, especially especially if we would be able to connect these names to their ecological status. Nakita natin kanina na there are some species that are vulnerable to any anthropogenic activities. Some are becoming critically endangered, and so on and so forth. Okay, and if we would be able to connect these names to their ecological status, it would be a very useful information to our communities. The ecological status, I suppose, of these species, I believe, is the most essential knowledge that we need to know. And if we want our biodiversity to be protected, just like that of the Lake Danao and that of the Naungan area, and if we want yung communities natin, or if we want this biodiversity to be protected and be used wisely by our people, I think we need to inform our communities, whether it's the local community, the business community, scientific community, education community, and so on and so forth, about the status of our floral and faunal resources. And in the presentation, we're told that some of the species found in the study areas are either vulnerable or endangered species or critically endangered species. Now, if our people would not know this status, they would just continue to exploit these resources without minding their possibility of becoming locally extinct. Kaya I believe that biodiversity conservation, based on sa information that Doc Art has given us, somewhat parang kung titingnan natin yung term na biodiversity conservation, parang it's really a high level term that needs to be simplified, which our communities may not be able to comprehend with, pag sasabihin natin, pag kakausapin natin sila about biodiversity conservation, parang hindi nila maintindihan kung ano yon. So that is why we need to simplify those things. Hence the availability of this information simplified in terms of presentation will really help bring biodiversity conservation into the conversation table within the community or even within the household. And I think that's the most important thing, that all these things, all these concepts, all these initiatives, and so on and so forth will be brought down at the household level. If you're going to look at our present condition, I seldom see families talking about conservation of our plant and animal species. Maybe yung mga families na uusap patungkol dito would be yung mga anak siguro ng mga taxonomists, ng mga biologists, conservationists, and so on and so forth. But the general public, we can really seldom see families talking about biodiversity conservation. And this can be the reason why most of our conservation initiatives, though we have a lot, ever since we did a lot of biodiversity conservation initiatives, they did not produce a very significant impact on the protection and conservation of our biological resources, despite the number of projects being implemented. As you can see, for example, we have several environmental programs in the country. We have done a lot of environmental, both terrestrial and marine ecosystem conservation protection projects in the country, and yet we still have this kind of environmental state that we have in the country. So if maybe one of the primary reasons, aside from the politics, alam naman natin yon, maybe yon hindi na nadala natin at the family level, at the household level, yung conversation na ito. And it would be nice if we would be able to bring this down at the household level. However, if we would be able to bring biodiversity conservation discussion to the family or household, I believe that we would have a different narrative, no, regarding this in the coming years. Why? Ito yung tinitingnan ko, no, kung bakit baka magkaroon ng pagbabago sa narrative natin when it comes to biodiversity conservation. A family is a multi-generational unit, no? Especially in our case where most households are extended. So we have the lolos, the lolas, the nanays, the tatays, di ba? We have the kids and we have the apos. So kung titingnan natin, it's really a multi-generational unit, no? Yung family. Thus, the decision of conservation within the family will already address, no, the intergenerational concerns associated with the conservation process. And having more and more families talking and practicing about conservation, we would be able to come up or establish a network of a well-trained, well-informed community, and having this strong network of intergenerational, green-minded communities who are working on the ground may shift, no, the pattern of use of our biodiversity resources in the country. And this is the reason why we no, at the scientific community should translate the knowledge that we created, no, through research into something that is understandable, that is comprehensible by the members, no, of the family. And this should not only end up being published in channels of dissemination where only members of our community understand them, but they can be translated actually, and they can be converted into materials that can help out households or communities and make them a wiser, no, a wise decision maker, no, to help them make a wise decision regarding the use, no, of these resources. So in this way, they will not only contribute to the conservation of these resources, but also they would be able to use them wisely. Kasi sila naman talaga yung nandun forefront of the consumption of these resources. No? In fact, if we're going to look at, no, with such an information, they might be able to respond smartly to any climate-related disasters. No, if they have that information. For example, they can use these wild plants, no, as a source for alternative foods during a disaster, while waiting for the supply from the government or from any other organizations who will be bringing with them relief goods for those who are victims of any disaster. Or they can also use this for first aid, no, or as first aid medicines, no, for those who have been injured by a disaster. So in this way, they will be able to enhance, no, their resilience to any disaster. And this is what we're hoping for this research program. No, this what this research program is all about. The different component projects of this program are really intended to collect data that can be used to educate and train our local communities in these areas, so that they might be able to improve, no, their disaster response systems, and in the process transform themselves, no, into a climate smart communities. And I think trainings, the component, no, training components of the program involving some LGU personnel are ongoing, and we're hoping that we would be able to offer our MOOCs also is part of this program. Anyways, if we can develop more materials that can be understood, no, and accessed by the members of many households in the country, I suppose, and even outside, no, within or outside of the study sites, I believe that we would be able to create a community of well-informed, no, and if we would have that communities existing in this country, I suppose we would be able to really have a good narratives for our biodiversity conservation and much more. If we would be able to let biodiversity, no, and its conservation enter the household conversation table through these materials, I believe we would really be able to have, no, be able to protect these different plants, plant and animal species, and we would I believe we would be able to be successful in any of our biodiversity conservation project or initiatives. Okay. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bagarino, for your insights on the preliminary findings in our study site in Ormoc. And it is true that even in the names, no, and their respective ecological status could really help in the biodiversity conservation initiatives and the local community to be more informed, that we will be able to apply more appropriate strategies, practices in management, in the protection, and of course in the conservation of down to the household level. And also the importance, I believe ilang beses po na-reiterate ni Doc Baggy kanina, the importance of bringing biodiversity conservation in the conversation table within families. And yes, families are multi-generational. They could actually know what are the previously used management practices in terms of plant biodiversity and fauna biodiversity conservation. They could really lay down to the next generation. So thank you again, Doc Baggy and Doc Art for your presentations and for the discussion. We will now proceed to answer some questions from our audience. So the floor is now open for comments, for questions, for clarifications, if you have any to our speaker or even to our discussant this morning. If you're more interested on the studies, paano ba natin gawin to? Paano ba natin ma-lay down ito? So, yeah, so open na po if you have any questions. So let me just check po yung ating Zoom chat. Okay, so maybe I would try to ask a few questions for Doc Art po. Doc Art, how have you in the limited time that you were able to do the survey, are there other challenges that you have experienced? So in terms of even yung methodologies of doing the methodologies, yung pag-survey, are there any other challenges that you face? So kung meron man pong mga interested na magkaroon ng ganitong project, they'll be able to know or get some tips.
Yeah, thank you, Anne, for that question. Of course, the bureaucracy of conducting research in communities will really require you to make some courtesy meetings with the key officials of the city, barangay, and other organizations that are involved. In the case of the Naungan Seascape, we also went to the people's organization who manage the mangrove area. So this situation somehow took us some time to be able to fully implement the project. But this is good because they are the beneficiaries of the output of the project. The second thing that we experienced is the high tide in the area. We were never aware or have a little information about the high tide situation. So some of the traps, especially for mice, other organisms, were submerged, no, and many of them have corroded. But anyway, it's just fine. It's part of the research. So we have also to hire yung boat in order to traverse the areas along the rivers. So we need someone to help us. Now on the part of the Lake Danao area, we have to submit ourselves to the PAMBI. So there are a number of documents required before we can implement the project. And we are glad that they are positive with the proposal. with several meetings with PAMBI and the local officials of Lake Danao, finally we were able to implement. So another thing is the weather. Sometimes we assume that the day is starting with sunshine, and then the later part there are some rains, and so this is affecting the operation. But we are glad that we were able to complete the activity. So these are some of the few challenges in doing this kind of research. Thank you, Anne.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc Art, for your answer to that question. So if wala na pong question from our audience, I hope everyone really got insights and lessons from our speaker and from our discussant. Okay, so since it's already past 11 na rin naman po, let me just proceed with the certificate, sharing of certificate, awarding of certificate to our speaker and our discussant this morning. Okay. Okay. So the University of the Philippines, Open University, and the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, through the Emerging Interdisciplinary Research and Building Climate Smart Communities Program, awards this Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Arturo Pasa for serving as, I'm so sorry, medyo nagkabaliktad po, as resource speaker during the webinar topic entitled Diversity of Flora and Fauna in Naungan Seascape and Lake Danao Landscape of the Revitalizing Socio-Ecological Production Landscapes and Seascapes Webinar Series held on the 29th of November 2022 via Zoom, given this 29th day of November, at the Institute of Biological Sciences, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, signed by Dr. Ricardo T. Bagarinao, Professor and Program Leader, Dr. Inocencio Ibuot Jr., Professor and Project 1 Leader, and Dr. John V. Serrano, Professor and Program Manager. And of course, we would also like to, I'm really sorry po sa napagbaliktad ko, Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Ricardo T. Bagarinao for serving as discussant during the webinar topic entitled Diversity of Flora and Fauna in Naungan Seascape and Lake Danao Forest Landscape, held on 29th November 2022 via Zoom, signed by Dr. Inocencio Buot Jr. and Dr. Joan V. Serrano. Okay, so for our announcements, we would like to invite everyone once again to our last webinar for this webinar series with the topic Satoyama-Satoumi Approach for National Development. So this will be presented by our Project 1 leader, Dr. Inocencio Ibuot Jr. And this will be, held on December 20 at 10 a.m. and to 11 a.m. So I hope that you'll all join us for our last installment for the Revitalizing SEPLS Webinar Series for 2022. Okay, so of course, as promised, we will award a certificate of completion to those participants that were able to join us from our first episode since March 2022 up to December, so until next month po. So I think I was able to see some names that are present consistently attending our webinar. So I hope that you receive one. So congratulations in advance sa mga makaka-receive po. And I would also like to request everyone to open up their cameras for our photo opportunity. All right. So I'll just, while waiting for our participants to open their cameras, I'll just send the link to the evaluation form. Okay, so wait lang po natin yung iba. So open na po ng cameras po natin. So again, reminder lang po, our evaluation form will be available for only 6 hours after the event has concluded. So kindly accomplish the evaluations forms na po. And yes, kindly make sure that your name is correct because this is automatically typewritten, and the email address is valid and also correct. So you will be able to receive yung e-certificates nyo po. And of course, the registration link is also available na po sa ating Zoom chat. I will also give the evaluation link and registration link po later on sa ating mga Facebook viewers, Facebook Live viewers. Okay, so okay lang po Ma'am Shaira if you are 3 sa isang camera. That's okay po. All right. I think everyone has already opened up their cameras, and yung iba I think I'm also busy then. So okay, so let's start. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, so next page po, kahit emoji or heart reaction po dyan, smile. And for our, okay, so dalawang slides na pala. All right, so again, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you so much, Doc Art, Dr. Arturo Pasa, and Doc Baggy, Dr. Ricardo T. Bagarina, for joining us. We are so honored to have you here with us for presenting the preliminary findings in our Satoyama-Satoumi site, and of course for sharing yung mga insights and experiences ni Doc Baggy in terms of laying down the conservation in the conversation table, and of course laying down it to the family level, how important it is to know that each family level knows and is well informed in biodiversity conservation, so we can all be part of this. And paano natin nako-consume, paano natin sila kino-conserve and pino-protect. Okay, so I hope everyone gained knowledge this morning that you could really apply on your workplace, on your respective fields. So I hope that you will also join us next time. So on behalf of Project 1 and EIDR-bSMART Program, we would like to thank all the participants who joined us today. And again, deepest thank you to our Field Supervisor and Program Leader to have you with us. We are very much honored that you are with us today. And again, once again, thank you for attending and for participating. We hope that we will see you again on December 20. That's a Tuesday. So I hope that you will mark your calendars or mag-register na po kayo, so you will have it will be sure that you will receive the details for the next webinar. So have a great day, everyone, and God bless us all po. Thank you. Also, I would like to acknowledge for your presence some of our project members from EIDR. Ms. Janelle Velegal was also here. Si Sir Jerry Neri, I saw him, and Sir King Nagit was also here with us. So thank you so much po for joining and for attending.